Hi there, this is Matt Heffernan. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to have a little channel update announcing that we are halfway to 1,000 subscribers, the big milestone that YouTube imposes upon you to make them think that you're worthwhile as far as a content creator goes. And so we have hit 500 subscribers now, which is quite amazing. And of course, that is an actual picture of me. I was a little famous back in the day. So, moving on, let's talk a little bit about this new year that's just started. We're a week into 2021, and I've experienced a big surge of engagement and views. Over the course of 2020, which of course was by far the biggest year I've ever had on the channel. Really, after changing gears towards the end of 2019 to do all retro content rather than basically being my channel being a repository for some of my early video work that I had done pre-YouTube. So over the course of 2020, an average week on my channel, I'd get 565 views, comprising about 24 hours of actual view time and 7 new subscribers. So like about a subscriber a day I'd be getting, which was pretty great considering where I was at in 2019 in terms of subscribers. I really took my channel from being something that basically nobody visited to something that a whole multiple communities of retro enthusiasts have been enjoying. So I'm very humbled by that. But now this past week, through January 6th, this does not include what happened on January 7th, which is the day I'm actually recording this. Well, actually, technically, it is January 8th at this point. And the January 7th numbers aren't in yet, but they were just as big, if not bigger, than January 6th, and would probably really blow these numbers up even more. I got over 1,000 views, 1,040 views, 87 hours of view time, probably thanks to some of my longer form videos that have been out lately, and 34 new subscribers. That's just in this first week, and it's pretty amazing. I think that's definitely owed to a few things, both of my creation and serendipity, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So first off, where we are with the Commander X16 tutorial series. That's the current main series I'm working on right now. I've got the first 3 episodes released. I don't know how many more I'm going to do. Basically, I'm going to keep doing them until I feel I've done a good job in talking about assembly language and how you do assembly development for this platform. I'm still getting through a lot of the very elementary basics of 6502 family development. So we'll get to some more advanced topics, and I started touching on the kernel in the last one. I haven't done anything related to the actual I/O devices like Vera or the YM2151 or any of the other devices that are used on the X16, and those will definitely warrant some videos of their own, just how we actually use assembly to interface with those. And that the first video in this series, it was a huge start. It was the biggest start to any video in terms of views and engagement of anything I've ever put up there, and it's quickly becoming one of my most popular videos of all time. And since then, the follow-up videos, not doing quite as good, just maybe slightly above average for my channel, not like blowing everything out of the water like that first one was. And I think that's understandable. Is what I'm creating is what I think is a sort of like an undergraduate level seminar on assembly language programming. And that's something that, yeah, a lot of people want to start, and then maybe once they see what's ahead of them, they don't want to continue with that. But it is good to see that, at least a few hundred people have been interested enough to keep going with this series and try to learn more, and I'm very, very thankful for that. So Moving on, of course, my first game for the Commander X16 Chase Vault. I haven't done any real work on that now in about a year, but it's been out there. It's open source and has been used as sort of like a benchmark test to make sure that different versions of the emulator and revisions of the hardware are working. And what we saw recently on the Tech Select channel, Kevin Williams, who has the main hardware designer of the Commander X16, he was able to test, and he made a few code changes to refactor it to meet the memory map, which was thankfully just a few characters to change in one include file, because I made sure that I wasn't hard coding a lot of these values that are subject to change. So thankfully he was able to figure out how to do that refactoring himself, and got it built to run for the most part on the number 2 prototype board, second revision, which of course needs to be replaced by a third revision. As you can see in his video, and I'll link that in the description, that the game plays perfectly well. You have all the sound effects and music, and all of the tile and sprite graphics are all working fine. And the title screen, the load sequence, everything's working fine. The only thing, as you can see in the screen cap, is the background image is just random garbage. It's using the palette, so it looks okay, because I have a very limited palette for that background image. So it's still playable, it's not too distracting, but it's not what I intended. And that's because of some bugs are needed. So beyond refactoring this the software to run on the hardware, on the hardware itself, there are some fixes that are going to need to happen, and very specifically to the ROM code that, again, is out of my hands, and there are known issues with the ROM that are preventing more files from getting loaded off the SD card. It appears that there's a limit of about 10 files that can be loaded, that when it tries to go through a directory, it can't see more than that. And that's been an ongoing issue, and hopefully that gets resolved once the third revision of the hardware comes out, and we'll start to get a little more synchronicity between the emulator code and the hardware prototypes, so that they're both working the same, using the same memory map, and providing the same features. The nice thing is that even though they've gotten rid of the SAA 1099 sound chip, none of my stuff has used it, and nobody else has, because it was never enabled within the emulator. So there's no code out there really to test that amongst the larger community. So that doesn't seem to really hurt anybody or put anybody behind. So that was, I think, an easy thing for them to get rid of, and I think a good idea, considering how much more powerful the built-in PSG is with the Vera, and what you're going to get built into the Vera daughter board is a sound capability that's like having multiple SID chips on the old Commodore 64 and 128. So definitely no big loss there, and I think we're really looking like the Commander X16 is a real thing that is going to happen, and that is going to come out sooner rather than later. Or at least it's a very real possibility that we will see it, if not in 2021, then definitely by 2022. It looks like they are that close. So we shall see, fingers crossed. Meanwhile, getting out of Commander X16 for a bit, my game that I'm working on, Alice in Wonderland for the Atari 2600, or Alice 2600 as I use as an abbreviation. I am still working on that. I've been kind of pausing that while dealing with the development of this tutorial series, which is definitely a lot more labor intensive than anything, and it really requires a lot more of my copious free time dedicated to that. So right now, just to let you know what I'm working on, what the next demo is going to have, will be a level number 3, which is a gamified version of the caucus race, which was the first scene of Alice once she's gone through the rabbit hole and gone through the door into Wonderland. She engages in the caucus race, which is a political parable satire that Lewis Carroll put into that book. And I think is very telling. And even today, where we don't have too many caucus races anymore in politics, the futility, especially the Democratic caucus in Iowa last year, was of course just a giant disaster, and they've always been disasters. And Lewis Carroll thought that, hey, that was a good idea, a good thing to make fun of, even in a children's book, that at least he'd get a laugh out of it. Anyway, out of the caucus race level, what you're going to see is some parallax scrolling. Basically, you're going to see the foreground moving along with the sprite. Basically, the sprite will be fixed for Alice, and then the other creatures in the caucus race will be going at different paces, and you basically have to keep pace with the birds, and then jump over any crabs, which are going to be coming, or rather, going a bit more slowly. So there's just, it's going to be still pretty simple. Not a lot of really complicated gameplay. This is definitely intended to be a family game, something that my kids, even my like 6-year-old, would be able to play relatively easily. It's definitely more difficult than the games they're used to, sandbox games like Animal Crossing and Minecraft, that don't pose that kind of immediate difficulty all the time, but something that's certainly playable for them. And so that'll be coming out hopefully later this winter. I'll be dedicating some more time to getting this level working. I've mainly just got these graphics working, where I've laid out how, like I said, that foreground is going to move along basically in opposition to how you're moving, while the Alice sprite in the middle is basically fixed on the screen doing the race, just in terms of horizontal space. And then that foreground will be moving by at that same pace, and meanwhile the sun will be moving much more slowly to indicate that sort of very gradual parallax movement, or perhaps giving the illusion of running around a large island, so that your angle relative to the sun is changing. And that I think should be interesting. Should be a nice effect. Should be a nice change up, a very a different form of gameplay than the level before. And I hope to have all of these different levels be nice little self-contained mini games that are going to be fun to play, accessible for younger people, and definitely helping to tell the story of Alice as you go along. Next, the other game, the big game that has been in development for quite some time at this point, is Cavas Quest, the first game that I'm putting out for the XCI game engine that I developed last year. This is going to be a full-scale Sierra-style adventure game with a point-and-click interface using XCI. If you haven't seen any of the XCI videos or any of the demos of this, please go back to my channel, subscribe if you haven't, and check out some of these videos. And what I'm working on now is getting the demo version of the game. I've already implemented that full demo version using some rudimentary graphics. The graphics you see here are some of the finalized graphics that I've created for this game, and I'm going to be getting all the graphics up to this level. As you'll see, if you played the whole demo right now, you would have this level of graphics for a while. Not saying they're super professional or anything, but they're at least okay to look at. And then it goes to very crude, quickly done drawings for the rest of the game. And eventually everything's up to be at least this level of quality, so that I can launch the fundraising to finance the completion of the game. And I've got to write a lot of it. This is something that the X16 itself may actually come out before this game is finished. If it could actually be a launch title, that'd be amazing, but there's still a ton of work to be done. This is going to be a very large-scale game. It is going to be equivalent in scale to an early 90s adventure game, and that's basically what I'm going for there. But right now, cranking through, getting the graphics, getting the music done, and my estimate at this point is we're about 45% done on that, on having that demo releasable. And when that happens, Hopefully the demo will be coming out in the spring or the summer, and I think it'll be not just a good demo of the game and the XCI engine, but I think will also be a very good demo of the capabilities of the Commander X16 to give you something that gives you more of a 16-bit experience with an 8-bit machine. And my newest project, which this is the first video I've posted on my channel about it, is a game called Moveopoly that I'm actually developing with my oldest daughter, Elodie. And she has a channel. It's kind of like my second channel on YouTube called Fun Things Rule. And her video introducing Movopoly and her and I talking about what it's going to be is linked in a playlist on my page. I'm going to link it in this video too. And we talk about what this game is going to be. Basically, she had the idea entirely on her own of creating a version of Monopoly where instead of sitting around a table going around different properties with a game piece, that the players themselves become a game piece and move through physical space, where you basically assign each room in the house or an area of the house or whatever to be these different properties that you roll a die, you go to, and it could be a property that you could buy, or it could be something where you're picking a chance card. There's the go space, and all that business is in there in order to create a version of Monopoly that gets you up and moving and also is a shorter play time, that we could get a version of Monopoly that is playable in under an hour by just simplifying the rules and the scale of it. So what I'm creating for Moveopoly is a simple mobile web app to automate it. She was doing it out of cutout construction paper, creating the property cards and fake Monopoly money and chance cards and doing all of that. And I had remarked while we did that, well, we all had to keep kind of going back and forth still to a central location to be able to retrieve these materials and to change money with the bank, and that if we had an app to do that, then we'd be able to communicate through the app, and we wouldn't be having to run back and forth. We would actually be staying within the physical space that we are, and she thought that would be a great idea because we'd like to do little STEM things. And if you go see her channel, you'll see some of the fun little STEM things that we've done on there. Not a lot of folks viewing them, but give it a shot. If you've got kids and you want to have some ideas of some fun things to do with them, and they can learn a bit about science and technology, that's I think a good place to start. So anyway, for this mobile app, it is going to be based on a lamp stack using the jQuery mobile framework for the actual user interface. It's going to be just straight up mobile web. I'm not creating an actual installable app for it. The point is that basically you come to our house or to anybody's house, because I'm going to make this all open source and easily modifiable for anybody. You'll be able to define your own version of Moveopoly that fits your house with this app. And all you have to have is a lamp stack installed, and everything else is taken care of for you. And that basically you have that lamp server. I'm going to have it running on a laptop, and anybody that comes to the house, they can connect to our private Wi-Fi, and they are in our game environment, and they can start a game, they can resume an earlier game, they could have multiple games going on at once. It's however you want to do it, it's going to make it much easier, and then you can do a version of Monopoly that is quick and fun and involves getting up and moving around. So that's what we're trying to do for that. And once I start having some actual code, I've actually created a MySQL database, and my first proper video on this, I'm going to go over that database and then some of the basics on how I'm creating this mobile website and what it's going to look like. And we're going to go through the process on her channel and my channel, and talk about on her channel the design decisions that the two of us are making together, the way we want the gameplay to work, demonstrating some of the gameplay. And on my channel, we'll get to see something that's not retro. This is going to be a modern web app using modern technology, and it's going to still be based on a game from the Depression era, but it's going to be a modern thing, and we'll have a little insight into how you can do something like this, a sort of a homebrew, home served type mobile web application. So it's going to be, I think, a really fun ride. And that's what we have now. I haven't really promoted it yet. The point of this Patreon, which I had mentioned briefly in other videos that I had one, and it's linked on my YouTube site, patreon.com/SlyvyMatt, was put in place so that when Cavas Quest was ready to start really doing the fundraising and to finance the completion of the game, that I would have some sort of means of sustaining an income that could be reinvested in that development on top of some Kickstarter or whatever once the demo was put out for people to pledge towards getting physical copies, getting licenses of the full game when it came out and so forth. And Patreon as a means of being able to support this channel and my different independent development endeavors, and then get some discounts by supporting me and my channel, getting some discounts on some of these commercial games that are coming out, getting physical copies of even open source games like Chase Vault that I will be putting out eventually. And what, to my surprise, people have actually started pledging to my Patreon. I have 2 patrons already. I have different tiers of membership. The highest membership that somebody's actually contributing to at the friend level is one Michael, and then another Michael is at the acquaintance level, which is just $1. So for just $1, you can get your name at the $1 a month. You can get your name at the end of all my videos from now until you decide to dump me as a target of your hard-earned money. So I definitely thank these folks, and you'll be seeing these names that will hopefully be a list that grows more as we go on. And then once I really do the big launch for this, I hope it does enough for me to be able to increase production value on my videos and be able to really bring in additional talent to help with some of my games, because as you can see, I've got a lot of projects going on. I'm still holding down a full-time job. I'm not looking for Patreon to pay my bills, but just to help make some of my ambitions possible. So thank you. Thanks for subscribing. If you're one of those first 500 subscribers, you're the best. I love you. And if you're not yet a subscriber, please go in. Let me get to that 1,000. And that's when this channel can really, really start taking off. So I thank you, and I hope to see you again real soon. Bye-bye.